First I have to make a sound check. I think it works. Thank you, Mr. Litz. Thank you, the people of Zebrastraat. Thank you, the people of KASK, to have invited me. That means for the opportunity, for the privilege and the pleasure to share with you some ideas. I will not speak about media art. I will use this wonderful privilege to develop a theory of media. So we speak about media theory. Nature media theory will frame also media arts. So I'm sure when afterwards you see the show, we will do it together, then maybe this lecture can help you to understand better what media arts is to today. From Greek philosophy 2,000 years ago, we have learned that if you make a long speech or a short speech, there's no difference. A long speech has the same effect like a short speech. Therefore, I have decided tonight to make a long speech. But it's only about 60 and 90 minutes. So, as you know, a short version takes much longer to write it down than a long version. Okay, so to begin with, this is a frame of theory I would like to speak in detail. We have the so-called natural world, which is a product of evolution. And one of these products of evolution is atmosphere. And then, as you will see, as we speak later about a term which I have coined, which I call exevolution. And the product of exevolution is a term which I have coined myself, infosphere, as an answer to the atmosphere. Atmosphere, as you know, is a product of photosynthesis. When the light of sun, with the help of the plants and algae in the ocean, they made this so-called photosynthesis. So the light of the sun was turned into air. So it's very clear to this formula. I would like to keep it in mind that the atmosphere is an answer to evolution. Precisely, the atmosphere is an answer to the existence of sun. And now, when you have understood this idea, it is very clear when I ask you what is the lung. The lung is the answer of evolution to the atmosphere. So first we had the sun, then plants, algae, etc., created by photosynthesis, it turned light into air, and in billions of years they created the atmosphere around the world. And then slowly we had creatures who learned how they can live by developing a lung and to live in atmosphere. So still today, we are these biological creatures who live in atmosphere. And we need an atmosphere, and now we have this crisis of climate that the pollution of atmosphere can endanger our species. But then the next question is that we have discovered magnetism only 400 or 500 years ago. So that means we have another answer of evolution is, for example, the eye. The eye is the same answer of evolution to the sun like the lung. Because there was a sun, you could turn the sun into air, into O2, oxygen 2. And you can also say the existence of the eye is the answer of evolution to the existence of the sun. Because light waves, we developed an organ. We developed a so-called natural organ that we can see. But in fact, we don't really see. It's a nice word to express a scientific fact that we can process electromagnetic waves of the sun, a small spectrum. The spectrum of the sun radiation is much bigger than our eyes see. So a small spectrum of the radiation of the sun, electromagnetic waves, this is what we call seeing. And we can also hear sound waves with our ears. So we have sensory organs, which are all answers to demands of evolution. And now comes the question, why did we only discover 400 years ago or 500 years ago magnetism? And so why took it many other time to realize that we can speak about electromagnetism? And why did it happen? That only 150 years ago we could prove the existence of so-called electromagnetic waves behind the Hertz, 1886. Why is it possible that in this universe, which since about 15 billions of years exist electromagnetic waves. And we did not feel them, we don't see them, we don't hear them. Because evolution did not give us an answer to exit electric waves. So the point is, we had no organs. We have ears to hear sound waves. We have eyes to see light waves. But we have no natural organ to receive electromagnetic waves. Even when they exist as natural production of the Big Bang since 15 billions of years. And now comes the point. We had to develop these organs ourselves. We had to develop radio and television and other machines that suddenly we could receive, hear and see the already existing electromagnetic waves. So this is the point that this evolution, which was not done by nature. Nature did not give us the organs, nature did not give us the natural organs that we can receive and process electromagnetic waves. We had first to discover a little machine, which is called compass, that we discovered, something is wrong here. Then we had to discover the source, where does this magnetism come from? Then we had strange theories, and said it was a mathematician, Mr. Gauss, who said it could come from the Earth itself, and even from the center of the Earth. Then they discovered it comes from what is called bipoles. So we have now the bipolarity of magnetism, etc., etc. Then we had Faraday, who had the idea, the crazy idea, how can you turn magnetism into electricity? Before Faraday, before 200 years ago, nobody has the idea that magnetism and electricity could be similar, etc., etc. Then we discovered that light is nothing else. Mr. Maxwell, as a mathematical theory, that light is nothing else than electromagnetic waves. And then we had Heinrich Hertz to say, we can prove that electromagnetic waves exist. And then we started to build technical organs, which could receive, process these electromagnetic waves. So this was done by us. So this is what I call, and I will come back to it later, exoevolution. We took out some, this is a fact. We don't have natural organs. We had to create our own organs, and these organs are television, radio, internet, telephone, etc., to receive something which already exists naturally. And then you know precisely that since about 150 years, we have also machines. We have radio, we have television, we have wireless telegraphy, we have wireless telegrams, we have internet. So around the Earth, we have a new orbital sphere with satellites, with airplanes. We have, which is all embedded in the electromagnetic, which is surrounding the Earth. So the Earth is not only surrounded by atmosphere, the Earth is surrounded even longer. Atmospheres exist only several millions of years. The electromagnetic sphere exists since the Big Bang, 15 billion of years. So now we are the first time only, we make use of the atmospheres since about 1 million years, but of the use of the electromagnetic sphere, we make only use about, let's say, 150 years. So you can imagine now, now we have just started to make use of infosphere. And the infosphere allowed us something revolutionary. Until 1800, in the atmosphere lived only 1 billion of people. The last 200 years, we have now 7 billion people on the Earth. This is not possible because there was an explosion of the atmosphere. No. Said we could move forward in 200 years from 1 billion people, 1 billion people populating the Earth, to now to 7 billion people populating the Earth, is only happening by the accident of the infosphere. Because this infosphere, which surrounds with the help of electromagnetism the Earth, helps us to move with data. What does it mean to move with data? This happened in the middle of 19th century. Up to the middle of the 19th century, when you wanted to deliver a message, you needed a messenger. You needed a body. You had a message, so you had to bring it to somebody, somebody who could sprint. But men don't run very fast. So the messenger was put on the horse, and so he could ride on the horse. So it was used the body of the horse. So the messenger was the body of the horse. And then you could even use the body of a pigeon, because the bird flies faster than the body of a horse. So what we had, the experience of space and time was bound to our body, which is bad enough, but the problem was that we needed always a body, the body of a messenger, to transport, to communicate a message. Then we discovered machines like car, railway, bicycles, and planes. But still, we had to sit on these cars. We had to sit on the bicycle. We had to drive in the car. We had to sit in the plane, so that we could bring the message with a message again. So the messenger was supported by machine. But with the existence and the discovery of electromagnetic waves, with wireless telegram, etc., suddenly we could stay here with our body, and we could send a message by telegram, telephone, etc., to another place. So suddenly we could move the message without the messenger. So the most important experience was the separation of the messenger and the message. And this also happened approximately 150 years ago. So we are in a very short time of history compared to our social creation. We are in a very short time of history to see what happened in the infosphere. We are now just in the beginning of the infosphere. That means this sphere of global data exchange with the help of all these machines which do not need the body of a messenger. So we can say now, as the atmosphere is the answer of evolution, we can say infosphere is an answer to the ex-evolution. We made the ex-evolution, mankind. So nature is in fact nothing else. No, technology is nothing else than nature made by man. As I said before, we have the ears, which is made by nature, but we have the radio, which is made by us. So technology creates ex-evolution, which is a man-made evolution, an artificial evolution, and the answer to this ex-evolution, this man-made evolution, is infosphere. Now we have to find out what is the effect of this infosphere. Already I told you one effect is that we can support about 8 times more people than it was the case 200 years ago. All technology, as you know, is called television, telefax, telephone, etc. Tele, the Greek word, means far. So all technology is in fact teletechnology. It's about far distances. And now comes the problem. Natural evolution has divided our sensory organs into 2 categories, which is called senses we can see far, senses we can hear far, but then we have senses which are called senses of proximity. When you touch something, this is not very far. You must be very close. So, for example, sexuality is a stage for proximity. You have to touch the skin, people kiss each other, people embrace each other. So it's not about distance, it's about closeness, it's about proximity. But now we have learned that even in sexuality, people make telephone sex, people make virtual sex with pornography in television, etc. So people have learned to turn the most prominent example of proximity senses, like sexuality, to turn into distant senses, to turn into technology of tele. So technology, in fact, is always teletechnology. So technology can only support distances about what we call distal sense organs compared to sense organs of proximity. But when you have the possibility to look farther and to hear farther than with your natural organs, you have the feeling of omnipotence and of omnipresence. You can be everywhere. You can be here in Ghent. You can telephone with Sydney. You can telephone from with Brussels. So it means part of your body, because the separation of message and messages, you can send the voice to another place. You can be everywhere in the world at the same time. So you suddenly have the feeling, I'm coming closer to God. The first one who discovered this strange feeling was Sigmund Freud. And he had in his book, Culture and its Disconsents, from 1930, which is a strange book. In my opinion, it's a very conservative book, a dangerous book, because it says culture, as the title says, culture and its disconsents. It explains, why do you feel uncomfortable in culture? But I read you something of this book because this passage is not very well received. Normally, Freud is not part of media theory, but he says something very essential about media and technology, which is very important for our next sentence. So Freud says, culture starts when we invent something to protect people against the tyranny of nature. You see? So culture is something opposed to nature. Huh? We suffer from the tyranny of nature, of fire, of rain, in asteroids falling down. Huh? So we try to invent something to protect us. One of the first inventions is fire in the house. You go into a house, huh? And then the house will protect you. Huh? So, but to achieve this, he says, the first acts of civilization were the use of tools. This is very important. Tools, technological tools we need to protect us against the tyranny of nature. So we invent tools. Again, as I said before, tools are part of exo-evolution. Everything what nature does not give us, we have to invent ourselves to defend us against the tyranny of nature. So our civilization is not based on language. People always say it's based on language. In the Bible, you say, in the Bible it's not written that God made light. In the Bible it says God said there should be light, and there was light. Okay, you see, so we say God was somebody who spoke and wrote, but as you know, God has never published a biography of his life, and he's never published something like a bibliography. So the writings about God are from us. And therefore, we pretend that God would act like us. We would say something, and then it would happen. This is called today speech act theory. You see, so 2,000 years, we had the idea, God said there should be light, and there was light. And even the famous philosopher Wittgenstein said in 1921 in his Tractatus Logica Philosophicus, he said, the borders of my world are the borders of my language, which is also wrong, because the borders of my world are my tools. So we are not, our philosophy, our civilization is not built on language. Our civilization is built on tools. Even Freud, who was a master of writing, said it. But there's some more tricky behind it. By means of all these tools, man makes his own organs more perfect and removes the obstacles in the way of the activity. So when you have organs and you have obstacles, something says to you stop, then you invent something to go beyond these obstacles. So we invent something which makes our organs more perfect. These are the tools of technology. And now he starts. Machinery places gigantic power at his disposal, like muscles. Man can employ in any direction. Ships and aircraft have the effect that neither air nor water can prevent his traversing them. So water is blocking us, air is blocking us, but we have invented ships to go beyond water. We have invented airplanes to go beyond air. With glasses, he corrects the defects of the lens in his own eyes. You see precisely, no? Nature makes us a defect, and then we invent something that we are not as imperfect. With telescopes, he looks at far distance. With the microscope, he overcomes the limitations in visibility due to the structure of his retina. Our retina is not very good. Therefore, we need a microscope to see small details. Even our experience, how we 3D, we need two eyes, because with one eye you would not see the depth of space. If we have two eyes, that means we have two different images coming to the brain. And then our brain is making this, as you know, superimposes the two images, and these two images create the illusion of space, of depth. If our eyes would be more like this, with a bigger distance, we could see much better. We would not be very beautiful, but the advantage would be we could see much better. We would not need a microscope. But since our nature have been thinking because of sexual attractions that we should look beautiful, then the idea was we lose a lot of possibilities to see. So we had to invent the microscope. With the photographic camera, he has created, man, an instrument which registers visual impressions. It's a kind of memory. Like gramophone is a memory of sound, etc., etc. With the help of the telephone, he can hear at distance, which even fairy tales would treat as inseparable. No fairy tale in the world has said to you what you can achieve today with your telephone. And now here comes the most important sentence. Writing, to begin, was the voice of the absent. So the first medium, the first tool, and now I correct myself, when we see language as a tool, said it is correct, what is written in the Bible by Wittgenstein. But they didn't say it. They said they believed in the language. But in fact, language, especially writing, not the spoken word, not the spoken word, not at all. The writing is the first medium. And because it is a medium of absence, when you write a letter, you write about something which is not here. You write to somebody who is distant at somewhere else. And you write about distance of things which have been passed and are not here. So writing is about really is a medium of absence. You're writing about things which are not here in space and time. And this is precisely what this technology is doing. Technology just continues. Tools just continue the labor of writing. So all technology is the extension of writing. So tools of technology are extensions of writing. But we do it better, and we can do much more with technological tools than with writing. And now he says, this has been achieved, but it sounds like a fairy tale. It is a direct fulfillment of our dearest wishes. Everything what man has wished, now suddenly he can do. So he feels himself omnipotent and omniscientific. He knows everything and he has enormous power, etc. So, and normally this omnipotence and omniscience is embodied, he says, in God. So the idea of God was precisely this: somebody who can know everything, who can do everything, who knows everything, as you know, all these drawings. He watches you all the time. He knows everything what you do, etc. He can do everything what you do, what you want, etc. So everything what man could not do, or was not allowed to him. Everything that man wanted, but he could not do, or was not allowed to him, he could was then attributed to God. So God, in fact, is the answer. Of the morphology of desire of man. So this is according to Freud. So, and God, in this sense, God as the center of all technology was the ideal of culture. And now suddenly, man came very close to the ideal of his own culture. Suddenly realized he comes closer and closer to God. And I realized when God comes to the world, when man comes to the world, he's a baby. What is a baby? A baby is the most helpless thing in the world. A baby cannot feed itself. Baby can't move itself. Therefore, understand baby very well that the baby always cries, because it always cries for help. And when it sees the mother going away, it knows, it becomes dangerous. So it cries that the mother has to stop. And even when the mother of us is here, it cries all the time, please help me, because it's just the expression of help. So therefore, this is the idea of Freud, that we come to the world as the most helpless thing. And now comes my own point. When you go home, look at Wikipedia for the name of the Greek goddess of helplessness. So the Greek name for helplessness is not baby, naturally. The Greek name of helplessness is amekania. The word a in Greek language means always negation. So helplessness means of Greek amekania. That means when you take away the a, so you have mekania. That means the god of help is mekania. Therefore, it is such a disaster in European civilization that the word mechanic has a bad taste. People say something, it's mechanic. Then I say, are you crazy? It's the best thing what you can say. Because mechanic means in fact help. And when you go back to the famous story of Odysseus, of Odyssey, this man who had to survive for 10 years in the most difficult, dangerous circumstances, and he had two names. His name was Polymekanos, somebody who has many talents in mechanical things. So he could only survive because he was Polymekanos. And all the big universities until the 19th century have been called Polytechnical Institute. Coming from this old knowledge for thousands of years that we need this kind of technical tools to survive on this planet. And therefore it is so ridiculous when people speak against mechanical mind, or speak or have this kind of technophobia. This is only, as I said before, it's the only possibility that 8 million people can survive on this planet. So we come back to Freud. So he said, okay, we discover now we are becoming, with help of these tools, God himself. This is direct citation. But we have trouble, because we realize that we are close to God, but we need what he calls prosthesis. So man would like to fly like a bird, would like to swim like a fish, but not with a ship and not with an airplane. This is what Freud insinuates us. I'm happy to fly with an airplane. I'm happy to swim with a ship. I don't need my own bird wings, and I don't need to be like a fish. But Freud insinuates that there's a difference with natural experience and technological experience of space and time. This is a conservative element in his philosophy. So he says, because man is like the gods, but his likeness is built on artificial organs, not on natural organs. He's a kind of, he says it, prothesis God. Therefore, man is unhappy. And therefore, he says, man is unhappy in culture, which is the most reactionary sentence. And therefore, the title is Culture and its Discontents. On one side, he is correct. He shows us that technology is something which brings us close to God. And therefore, the sentence. All technology, teletechnology, is also theotechnology. It's always a kind of promise that we can go beyond, that we can beyond limits of natural humanity. And this is maybe probably the case why people are sometimes afraid of technology, when they realize what can still happen. And Freud himself says so. This evolution will not come to an end in 1930s. He wrote the book 1930, and he says the word evolution, you see. He made a mistake because technological evolution is not natural evolution, but anyway, he used the word evolution. So I can say we are now developing this kind of exo-evolution. And I think we will be happy to be in this exo-evolution. Now, to the next step, before we get into pictures, one of the best modern architects, Frank Lloyd Wright, who created the equation for the industrial revolution. This is the title of a lecture he gave in 1930, Machine, Materials and Man. So man invented machinery, like cars, airplanes, etc. And therefore, when you look close in the books of architects like Le Corbusier and Frank Lloyd Wright, you always have the same. You have on one page, you have a building. On the other page, you have a car or a ship. So the models for modern architecture has been machinery. And therefore, Frank Lloyd Wright made this lecture, the Kahn lecture, and he said, the equation of 20th centuries for the industrial revolution is machinery. So with machines we make materials, with materials we make machines, and then together we create a new environment for men. And my answer is, it's okay, this is for the industrial revolution, but now we are living in the post-industrial revolution, the so-called information revolution, and now we have a different equation. Media instead of machines, data instead of material, and man. And when you think what today is the most powerful government in the world, which knows more than everything else, it is called National Security Administration, the American NSA. And they have no machinery, they have no materials, but they have media and data. And they even can listen to the telephone of the Chancellor Merkel in Germany. And if one of you becomes an interested subject for NSA, you have no chance at all. They will discover everything. They will know what you did 2 years ago. They will know what you did yesterday. So the most powerful agency today is NSA because they understood this equation. The most important thing today is media, data, and man. It does not mean that we stop. We still have machines. We still make cars. We still make ships. But the value of this industrial revolution becomes less and less. So when you look at the rankings of most important companies, in the ranking of brands, in the ranking of money, who makes the most money, who makes the most profit, car companies are on number 20. 10 years ago, car companies have been number 4, number 5. Today we have companies which 10 years ago nobody knew the name, like Google, and etc., etc. So also information companies are now under the top 10 of worldwide companies in the ranking of brands, of money, etc., etc. So we have the old equation, machine, material, and man, but on top of it, we have media, data, and men. Unfortunately, our governments in Europe don't know it. So therefore, in Europe is completely behind the ex-evolution. So it needed NSA, that suddenly realized, oh, there's something going on in the world. That there are companies who just distribute data with the help of media. So NSA had a good effect that maybe Europe will awake from a long, long sleep. That Europe has really did not realize what is the digital society, what is the information revolution. Okay, so now I repeat everything what I've said again, but with the help of pictures. This is the alphabet. The alphabet, as I said, is the first mechanical tool to help us to express desires beyond distances. The alphabet is insofar a mechanical tool because you have 26 letters and you have rules which are very simple, what we call grammar, how to make as many sentences. So I built a machine in the back with the alphabet, and you touched it, and you could write letters. And you see this is called typewriter. Or you have these sticks to move around. So the best sticks in the world is the alphabet. With the sticks you can make labels like this. But with the alphabet, you can travel to London, you can read books about the 17th century, you can read books about 16th century. So the best tools is in fact the alphabet. So therefore I made poems with typewriters. And then, as you see, the typewriter is a field of letters. And then 40 years later, I made computer assisted installations, environments, and I used the same. The field was typewriters. So when you moved around, you had several letters, and then you could choose a word, a so-called virtual world. You could choose the world of alphabet. You had 26 letters on the floor, and you could write virtual letters. You could make sculptures and buildings. Then you could enter another virtual world like furniture. Then you could combine furniture. Then you could enter another virtual world which was about sculpture, and another one which was about biological creatures. So you could create your own artificial creatures. So the idea was that telephone and television, etc., all of them are just processes to help you to get beyond the distances. Then, 67, I predicted one day there will be a little machine, big like a razor, and this machine will be television, telephone, typewriter, everything in one unit. I call it information unit. Today we have it. After 40 years, it is called smartphone. At that time, nobody believed me. So when I made a book, 1974, this was a time when Steve Jobs and Bill Gates etc. created their famous garage companies. I have published a book about 500 pages with just abstract formula. It was called Studies of Abstract Automata. We did not call it in science, we did not call it computers, we called it abstract automata. And I made a book about 500 pages with just with mathematical formula. And then I made a mistake, a typical European mistake. I went to the States and wanted support for an institute for automata, abstract automata. And the government did not give us the money. My friends, I was at that time assistant university, so I taught people. We have been 12 people in all Austria who studied this, what today is called computer science. And nobody cared about us, 74. I had the book, I sold about 12 copies only. 12 people in Germany and Austria wanted to know something about computers, a disaster. Then my students had to go to Italy and to Oxford to teach. Only in the 90s, when everybody had his personal computer, then the third generation of my students could come back to Austria and teach computer science. Can you imagine such a stupidity that the government does not realize how important computers are? So it took 3 generations to teach it at the University of Vienna. The same happened in Europe. I think I constructed media lungs. You see, even at that time, I constructed a machine which I said, a new lung for environment without air, because it's clear we have this air pollution, and we will never protect the air enough. So you can be sure that the pollution of the air gets worse and worse and worse. So in 10 years, here in Ghent, it will be like in Hong Kong, etc. In 10 years, and since we cannot stop the government polluting the air, we have to think how we can improve our lungs. And this is one of the first ideas. Mechanical help to improve our lungs, that with less air we can still survive. Then I invented machines how blind people can see again. And for example, with cybernetics and artificial intelligence, and all similar like technology. These ideas have been virulent, and I give an example. The famous founder of cybernetics, Norbert Wiener, he wrote a paper in 1951. It has this fantastic title, for me as an historian, to prove my theories. The title of the paper is Sensory Prosthesis. And he wrote a paper, what can we do so people who are blind can see? And he speaks about sense like touch. And he develops ideas how with fingers, we can learn that people can see. And this is now a very important question. What will be the future of sensory prosthesis? I will show to you. So you see here, I developed different technologies which have been sensory touches, which you can touch, and how to help blind people to see. And I was trained into cybernetics, information theory, artificial intelligence. This was the papers I wrote. Then I turned these experiences into art ideas, but actually not successful. The institute what I created, what I wanted to, that the government gives us money, and what I gave it a mistake. I called the institute not Microsoft. I called it Experimental Epistemology. This is not a very good title to make a business, no? But it was too late that I didn't understand it. Okay. So, in fact, what is about technology, when you see it as this kind of sensory extensions, the technology is something about reprogramming our sense organs. Not only extending our sense organs, as Freud said, the extension of organs, the same idea has the famous Marshall McLuhan. So his book is called 64. The book was Understated Media, Extensions of Man. The wheel is an extension of the foot, the glasses are extension of sight, etc. No, it is more. Media are a kind of reprogramming of the sense organs. So therefore, even McLuhan has written later, Marshall McLuhan wrote later, each new technology is a reprogramming of sensory life. Our sensory life, that means our relation between our sense organs, be it natural or technical, to our environment, will be changed. And second, the relation between our sense organs itself will be changed. So the relation between our eye and our ear will be changed. The relation between our eye and our tactile, our senses of proximity will change. So we have two classes of changes. The set of all our sensory organs, we have 5 or 6 senses, and this relation to the environment will change, but also within the relation of the sense organs to each other will also change. This is what we call reprogramming of sensory life. And suddenly, as you see, people, like young people, look all the time. So you can see tables, 6 people on the table. Nobody's speaking to each other. Nobody's looking at each other. Everybody looks at his phone and is playing with his hands on the smartphone. And then even people, today young people, make love or sex, let's say better, and look on the smartphone what is happening. They don't even look on real sensory life. They look, oh, I see it like in a pornographic movie. Wonderful. So you see, this is an example how we reprogram our sense organs. This is the first idea. What does it mean, reprogramming sense organs, was the so-called experience of synesthesia. Synesthesia was the first time that people in the middle of the 19th century discovered, okay, when you have a stimuli to your eyes, it could also stimulate the organ as inside your brain, the nerves of the ear. So you could see something what you hear, you could hear something what you see. So the colors have its own sound, the sound has its own color. So today we have an industry which is called music video, visual music. No? So 100 years after this scientific discovery of synesthesia, we have an industry. Yeah? And this will happen again. Whenever we invent something today, and 100 years later, you will have an industry out of it. So, but the point is that this the first time when we discovered this reprogramming of sensory organs, which today has become a perfect industry. A rock concert is the most dull concert. You hear sound and then you make light shows, etc. So a rock concert is just the vulgarized version, a very vulgarized version of sensory reprogramming. No? So you bring light experience, color experience together with sound experience. No? But this is what we call synesthesia. No? But this reprogramming of sensory organs happened at the time. It's the same time when Darwinism was discovered. Yeah? And then there was a writer called Samuel Butler. Yeah? He wrote an utopic novel, which he would normally call Nowhere. Utopia means nowhere. Nobody. So nowhere is a Greek word of utopos means place. Utopos is negation, no place. So it's called in English nowhere. But he turned it upside down. So the book is called Erewhon. Just read the nowhere, read it from back. Yeah? And he wrote a book. In the chapter in the book of machines. And then he said, for the first time, I make a citation, we find ourselves almost awestruck at the fast development of the mechanical world. So he had the idea that the mechanical world would also become like evolution. So he said, how would machines evolve? How would be the progress of machines? And then he said, the machines are gaining ground up. Day by day, we are becoming more and more subservient. We become servants of the machines. More men are daily bound to slaves of the machines. And the future will be the evolution of the mechanical life. You see, this was published around 1870. At the same time when we discovered the separation of messenger and message, at the same time we discovered synesthesia, the reprogramming of sensory organs. This is precisely the effect. Each new technology changes our relation of sensory organs and our relation to the environment. And one of the first effect was machines. So we had machinery, material, and man. And today we are in the next step, what I call ex-evolution and infosphere, that we have now dealing with media and data, which change again completely our relation to our present environment. A younger philosopher, his name is George Dyson. There's a famous lady called Esther Dyson, a pioneer of the internet, and both George Dyson and Esther Dyson are the children of a wonderful physicist, Mr. Dyson. And his son, George Dyson, wrote a book, Darwin Among the Machines. So he made it very clear, this book was published 20, 30 years ago, that machine evolution, as machine progress, has the same model as like natural evolution. So it's so like Darwin Among the Machines means the evolution of machines. And then and the end of the book is, may not man himself become a sort of parasite upon the machine? So you see again the same technophobia like Freud. Freud says we are feeling not happy with machines, and even says maybe we become parasites of the machine. So we have always this conservative technophobia, which I said is ridiculous because mechanic means help, not the opposite. Okay, then from this on, there was a long movement. Only to give you one of many stations. The Nobel Prize winner for medicine, Gerald Edelman. Edelman, he wrote a book, 1987, and the book is called Neural Darwinism. So the idea was that even neural connections. So first we have Darwin in the natural evolution, then we have machines, as a Darwin evolution, as a machine as technological evolution, and then finally we have even the idea of neural Darwinism, that the connections of our cells in our brains, these billions of cells, would also follow the model of evolution. It was called neural Darwinism, etc., etc. But now we come to a point which is more interesting for our theory. There was a man I like very much, and he has become a friend of mine. His name is Brian David Josephson. And he was 23 years old as a student, when he designed an experiment, that what is called today the Josephson junction, that between neural activities, also zwischen neural nets and machine parts can be made a connection. You see? So we have neural nets in our brain. But then he said, how can you make it? Because this neural net has what we call superconductivity. That means the transport of messages are faster, nearly fast as light. So how can we do that we can connect this conductivity with material? And he made a series of experiments when he was 23. Unfortunately, when he was 10 years later, this experiment couldn't be proved. And as you know, the Nobel Prize is not given to people who have ideas. The Nobel Prize is given to people who can prove the ideas. So whenever you have an idea, you must prove it. Otherwise, you don't get a Nobel Prize. So then, 10 years after his idea, it was proven that this theory was true. But can you imagine what do you do when you're 33 years old and have a Nobel Prize? So your race is run. There's nothing more to do in the rest of your life. Or you try to find a second Nobel Prize. So Josephson finished his scientific work, and he addressed the so-called paranormal phenomena, which is dangerous for somebody who is a scientist. And sometimes people think that an artist is eccentric. When you know a mathematician, then you know a mathematician is very eccentric, like Mr. Perelman from Russia. But the most eccentric people in the world are British mathematicians. And like Mr. Josephson. And then he started to become somebody believing in paranormal phenomena, but nobody, all the people around him did not believe. So he founded the science of pathological disbelief. So he wrote a book, said all the people who do not believe in his own paranormal theories, etc. So he gave us an example. What he gave us an example, said it was the following. He made an experiment with a Chinese girl, 18 years old, and the girl was behind a concrete wall, 100 meters away. He wrote the name Wittgenstein on the paper. He made a mistake. He wrote the name again. And then the girl came, and the girl chewed the paper. And then the girl, after chewing and eaten the paper, wrote down the name of the philosopher Wittgenstein precisely in the same way as he has done it, to correct it. Then he says, you see, Peter, I have a proof about paranormal phenomena. And then I said to him, no, Joseph, no, it's not a proof. Because, think, now comes the point. People can read with a finger, the so-called braille writing. You right? So the finger is a small kind of TV screen, but not very good. So when you're looking for a good TV screen inside your brain, inside your body, then you must look at your tongue. Your tongue has a resolution of 450 points. A bad television set, a black and white television set from the 50s, has a resolution of about 1,000 points. So your tongue is nearly as good as a bad black and white television set. So nature, your tongue can read, and I show you how it looks like. This is a Josephson junction. This is Paul Bach-y-Rita. He invented the theory of sensory substitution, which is the most important step for the next century. Synesthesia is over, completely over. It has become something for commercialization and industry, entertainment industry. Today we discover, like with the tongue, you can see with your tongue. So the tongue can take the function of your eye. This is the point. You can substitute when you have a defect. When you have a defect eye, you can substitute the function of your eye with another organ. So to make it more general, every organ in your body can take over partially the function of any other organ. And this is a proof. You see, this is a blind person. It has a camera on the glass. This camera makes a picture of the world in a resolution of 450 pixels. Then this picture goes wireless to the little micro computer. Then from this computer goes a cable to a grid. This grid has 550 points. This grid is on your tongue. And And then blind people learn within 3 weeks to see with their tongues. This is what we call sensory substitution. And this is the future. With the help of computers, with transmission of data, this is what I said before, not machinery, material man. No, today we are with media and with data. And we realize that we are just a medium ourselves which processes data. And therefore, we can say we are not bound that an organ in our sensory life has to do one job. No. Each organ can do the job of many other organs too. So we could learn that our ear will see, that our eyes can hear, and that our tongue can see, etc., etc. This is the steps, what I call the beginning of what we call the most important steps in X-evolution. I got the term X-evolution from the philosopher Michel Serre. You see here, what you can read it. What is applied to the biological functions like hammer, chest, wheel, etc. Is also the intellectual functions. Memory this is like Freud. Memory is materialized in writing, in printing, computer sciences. The body loses. And he calls it exodarwinism, which is wrong. It is not about Darwin. It must be something about exo. He must call it. So the correct term is exo-evolution. Now we come to the most important point. What is the meaning of that people stand erect? That we can stand on 2 feet. Please go home. When you have an animal at home, a dog or a cat, watch how a cat or a dog is eating. When you don't have an animal at home, watch on television when they make an advertising for food for cats and food for dogs. Then you will see that the dog could be easily sitting down on his ass, he has 4 feet, he could take 2 of his feet and takes a nap and eat it. But he does not do it. He puts his nose into the nap and puts the nap forward. The same with the cat. The cat has 4 feet and takes his tongue into the nap and is drinking the milk. When he makes a mistake with the nose, then the nap is tossed away with the nose and the cat follows. The cat and the dog have not learned to turn 2 of their feet into hands and to keep the nap. Go home and watch it. The only animal which can do it is squirrel. The squirrel can take the nut and keeps it in the hand. So the squirrel can say, I have 2 feet, but when I need it, I have 4 feet. But when I need, I have 2 feet and 2 hands. So the hand was the first tool. It's a moment when nature has given man 2 free hands as instruments, as tools. Then he had the power. But he also said, and with this, now comes the point. Man is the first of the creation left free. With the invention of tools, and the first tool was the hand, man has become the first to be free of the natural evolution. This is the point. So in this philosophy, 200 years ago, we find the beginning of technology, philosophy of technology. The first tool what you have, the first technology is in fact the hand. So when we are upright, we could suddenly eat some fruits, we could do, and finally we could even write. And when we could write something, we could make drawings, and then we could make machines. So the first tool, even before writing, is the hand. And then with the hand, man was the first that man could, was the first creature that we could free ourselves, liberate from the prison of space and time. The name of this prison of space and time is precisely evolution. And this prison has 4 bars. X, Y, Z, these are the 3 categories of space, and the 1 category of time. So we have 4 coordinates, this prison of space and time, we have 4 bars, which is X, Y, Z, and T, tempus. So it means, as I said before, with technology, you can go beyond. You can get out of the prison. Normally, when you want to get out of the prison of the world, there's only one escape button. And this escape button is called death. You can die and then you are out of this world. But nobody comes back. So when my students ask me, how do I get out of this world? Then I say, I can't recommend you. There's one escape button which is called death, but I can recommend it. I cannot recommend because you don't come back. So the only way that you can get out of this world for a moment is technology. With the help of teletechnology, the prism bars of space and time can be extended and can be enlarged. You can see longer, you can listen longer, you can hear longer, you have a memory, etc. The only way that you know what has happened 2,000 years ago is to read a book or to see a film. The only way to know what happens in 1,000 years is your fantasy or imagination, and you can see it in a film and you can read it in a book. So in fact, with the tools, like on the first was the hand, we got free of natural evolution. And there started what I call the exo-evolution. Now I give you some more examples to understand what is going on. Some artistic examples to understand the philosophy. Well, see, I did an installation where you could put your hand in a bucket, and there was a magic cube. Now it's a little bit complicated to explain it, but what happened, you put your hand in this bucket, and then your hand came out from this magic cube. This is precisely, your hand can separate, you lose a hand, your hand is floating away, and as an image comes back from another place. This is magic, but in fact, as I said before, it's not a supernatural phenomenon, it is just technology. How I did it is technically too complicated. Or here, you can watch yourself on a camera, but in fact, you will never see yourself. Watching yourself, you prevent watching yourself. Because here was the camera and here was the monitor. So you could only look at yourself from the back, never from the front. But when you wanted to see yourself in front of a cross, you had to make a cross. There have been 2 sensors and a camera. When you did not make the cross, then you didn't see yourself. So you have to pay a price. Identity is something what you sacrifice. So I was against identity because, as you know, we have gender identity, we have national identity. It's all misuse of media. Here's the same. We speak about Jesus Christ of Nazareth as Son of God and Son of mankind. And this says, okay, maybe we can make a transfer from the infinite to the finite. We are mortal. We have a finite life. God is immortal. He has an infinite life. How can it then possibly, logically, that he makes this transfer, this transfinite transfer? And technically, I can show it. In the camera, you have a little button. What is black becomes white, what is white becomes black. So we have an infinite recursion. So it's just a technological problem. And one of my favorites is a mathematician, Kurt Gödel. He wrote a mathematical proof about the existence of God, which is a little bit complicated at the moment to explain. But you got an idea. 1 page, 2 pages, a formula, an ontological proof of the existence of God. And now comes the point. As I said before, technology is an escape button. And here's this famous painting, this cutting, this graphic etch, that people always wanted to get out of the world. This is one that wrong. And as I told you, it's not possible to get out of the world. Why is it not possible? Because we have to learn, which I showed you before, in all the other works, we are not observers of the world. We are just internal observers of the world. When I look at you, then I'm part of the system of the sea. I see my hand. When you look at me, you see the computer, but you see also yourself. You see your nose, you see your hand. So your environment, you're part of your environment. Abstractly speaking, you're part of the system what you see. The system what you see, you're not outside of it. You are never an external observer. This is the illusion which has been created for the last 2,000 years. People gave you the wrong idea that we are capable to be an external observer. The idea was God, as I said, God could be, maybe, was the illusion. So there's one external observer outside the world who watches everything. So this was a protection of our desire to become an external observer. This painting is precisely as a proof. We have the desire to be external observers, but we can't. We are always inside the universe which we observe. We can never get out of it. We are just internal observer. What we can do, we can construct the illusion to become an external observer. And this is technology. With technology, we can go beyond the atmosphere, look outside on the planet. Technology is the illusion that we could become external observers. And therefore, the whole universe, what we have today, is called, by Archibald Wheeler, a quantum physicist, the so-called participatory universe. This is a fact. Quantum mechanics teaches us that we are just internal observers. By observing, we change something. So we are living in a participatory universe. Whenever you do something, it will have an effect to another person or another object in the world. Therefore, and so I made an installation that an eye is observing the machine which observes the machine. No? So it's a kind of closed circle to prove that we're internal observers. And another, I made a computer installation. You're in front of the wall. I can never go beyond of the wall like this picture. I can't do it. But what I can create is a computer simulation that could be on one side of the wall, and at the same time, it's the other side of the wall is an image. So when I was standing here, I was standing virtually on the other side of the wall and could press on the bricks, and the bricks would move forward. So I could touch the bricks virtually, so that the wall would collapse. So what I could create with this computer-assisted installation, the illusion to be an internal observer at the same time an external observer. This is what technology can do. For example, I made a table, and I made a link to the satellite image. And so when you have been eating your soup, you saw in direct transmission of the satellite image of the Earth. So you have been eating. This is really incredible, no? Because before you have been standing always on the Earth. Now you are eating the Earth. You can look in your soup and you see the globe, the Earth, in present time, no? in sync time, no? From a satellite image. No? So you are internal and external observer at the same time. No? This happened with the invention of the microscope. Yeah? These are the first things which you have never seen before. Yeah? Yeah. Now, this was now, as I said before, this is the idea of exevolution. Yeah? And now comes the point. Yeah? You see, finally, yeah, more and more, the reprogramming of our sensory life becomes a complete substitution. Yeah? Maybe when you have seen the last world champion in Sao Paulo, unfortunately, television showed us hundreds of minutes of dull soccer players missing the goal. I always wonder how is it possible that 11 people need 90 minutes to miss the goals. This is a strange sport. 11 people are running around all the time, 90 minutes, and at the end they have not made one goal. But the same stupid television program showed us only 4 seconds of this event. This person, this is a model, this is a real thing. This person is completely helpless. It's like a baby. This person can't move any muscle, any organ, nothing. It's like a baby, it's a helpless infant. It has only a brain which is working. And the brain has not the power to say to the muscle what to do. And now, doctors in Japan, in Sao Paulo, have invented what is called exoskeleton. This is what I like. It's a proof of my theory of evolution. So the person thinks, I want to move, and suddenly it can move. And the person says, I want to move my leg, and they move the legs and can play with the soccer. Unfortunately, this sensation was only shown 4 seconds. This is really uncomfortable. No? The television shows us hundreds of minutes of dull soccer players who could get an enormous amount of money, and that this important step in mankind is only shown 4 seconds. But this is the point. This is called exoskeleton. So what we do, our mental and muscular defects, we exterior them. So when nature makes us kaput, when nature says to us, your body can't move anymore, then we can stop the barriers of nature. Isn't this wonderful? Nature says you are dead. Nature says you can't move. Then we invent something. So evolution says you can't move. But we invent exevolution. We invent exoskeletons, so suddenly we can really move. And this is the direction what we're going. We have now exosuits for swimming. So in fact what we have now is stimulation instead of simulation. We have substitution of sense organs as a next step in the exevolution. And even companies like Google and others, I did it as I had the idea 68, but I couldn't do it. I just had the idea. Now you see the substitution of organs. You can hear with your arm. It's an artist. The mouse with the ear. And then this is what we did recently at ZKM. As you know, Van Gogh has cut, it's a legend, it's not true, has lost his ear. But he had a brother, Theo, the art dealer, and and he made children. So the grandson or whatever of Theo Van Gogh is still alive. Yeah? So some scientists and a woman artist in America, they took some cells from the ear of the grandnephew of Van Gogh, and she recreated the ear. So this is a sensory substitution, a sensory recreation of the lost ear of Van Gogh. And now, the next step is the company Intel is developing an instrument which they call real sense. That is funny, no? Because it's going back to the senses of proximity. When people touch something, that with your fingertips and with a movement of gesture, you can command computers and you can even command 3D printing. No? So now they are going back in what I call reprogramming of our sensor organs. They are going back from the senses of distance back to the senses of proximity. So and they call it, funnily enough, real sense, because when you can touch something, it's more real than when you just see something. So you see, the technology is precisely following to help disabled people to develop tools which allow us to change our environment. This is for children. Thank you for your attention.